Welcome back, everybody, to the Badgerland Birding Podcast. Today we're with our friend Rob Pendergast, who is a big birder in Portage County, Wisconsin. Prairie-chicken specialist. He always knows where to find him out there, and just a really good birder. So how's it going, Rob?
I'm doing excellent now that I'm not working. So
That's a plus. Yeah.
yeah, it's always good. Could be birding more, but I I can't complain. And if I did, it wouldn't do much good now, would it?
It was funny because you said I should be birding more and you looked kind of guilty about it as if it's a job that you have that you're not fulfilling, even though it's actually a hobby.
The FOMO is real. I feel really lame saying FOMO, but I
I
feel it.
also
It's a
can't
thing.
help but notice that you're starting to look more and more like Kurt Cobain with the long hair.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like the grunge, so I take it as a compliment. Yeah, I just been too lazy to cut it.
And
I
is that
think
a red panda shirt?
that is.
Very nice.
I got it from Goodwill.
Nice.
It's a
Yeah.
certain mood that you're bringing today with the long hair,
Oh
talking
yeah.
about grunge. There's a blurred snowy owl in the background, a red panda shirt. It's all over the map.
This is my persona. I living it every day for sure.
He's the embodiment of the grasslands.
Yep. Oh yeah, I'm a prairie dog.
So, Rob, when did you get started in birding?
So I think it really started when I was about 10 years old and I was at a bookstore with my dad. And he's like, you can pick out one book because I picked out a big stack of books and I'm like, I want all these. And he's like, you can pick one. And I picked the Smithsonian Guide to the Birds of North America, which is about this thick. I don't think I have it on the shelf here.
Did you
Um,
pick it just because it was the thickest one? So you thought, I'm gonna get the most bang for my buck with this one book?
Partially, but like I was also flipping through the pages and looking at the range maps, and I'm like, how is this bird here? I've never seen this before. And it kind of was interesting to me. And it kind of like I would snowballed from there. Like I would just see birds in the backyard or on family vacations. I'm like, oh, that's in my bird book. And when I was 13 or 14, I went out officially birding with my uncle around Strickers and Tiedemann's Pond in Middleton because I wanted to see a black crown night heron. And we did. I think we saw a few of them. And he also introduced me to eBird. And I'm like, oh, this is a lot like the Pokedex. So
Mm.
like I was naturally hooked and I've been obsessed with it ever since. And I've been got to catching them all with birds.
So were you a big Pokemon guy?
I still am.
Oh, nice. Pokemon
Yeah.
Go?
Uh, yeah, here and there. I play the main games, just to be eternally disappointed, but it's some of them are all right, some of them are kind of like a, but yeah, that's about, I was all, I don't really game much anymore, but when a new Pokemon game comes out, I kind of shill my money for it.
Gotcha.
Why
That
you
was a
why
But
you
yeah,
dis
connection.
why are you disappointed by the games? Like you're talking about like the
eh,
Nintendo games, right? Like those.
yeah,
I love those games. They're so fun.
they are. It's just kind of like the same thing over and over again. Legend of Arceus was pretty good because it was different, but yeah, I don't know. It's you can't really encapsulate what it was back in the day when you were a kid, and I guess I'm kind of just grasping at those straws still.
That's true. That's kind of why I
Mm-hmm.
went to Pokemon Go
Birds.
because it seemed like the
Yeah,
next evolution of the Game Boy games. But then birding is the real evolution of those Game
yeah.
Boy games.
That's why I don't really give up birding ever.
Yeah,
Like,
not even when the new version comes out.
right, Merlin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I don't know. I go in streaks with my birding intensity. Like, I think it's seasonal when it's July and you hit that lull and the birds have stopped singing because their hormones have dropped with the light fading or whatever. Um, that's one of the periods where I kind of go into that torpor and I don't really get out as much like right now. And of course, I live in Portage County, so like shorebirds are sometimes we have shorebird habitat and sometimes we don't. Most of the time, we don't. So there's not really that. And in the winter, I kind of go through a lull too. February is kind of a drag, but otherwise, like I try to get out at least once a day for at least an hour, something like that. And it's good because it like gets you out there, gets you some fresh air, and I don't know. You never know what you'll find.
Keep that checklist streak alive too.
Yeah, that too. I've been
Yeah.
doing that. I actually entered a couple of zero checklists this year to do it.
Just looked outside and went, nope. and then
Yeah, I think there was
goes
one day
down.
where it rained all day or something like that. I think that was one of them. And then the other day, I think I just worked all day or something.
I've heard people doing that when they're flying all day or somewhere where
Yeah.
they literally can't bird. They'll just put down a zero checklist to
Hmm.
keep that streak alive. I was
Yep.
going to go back to the shorebird habitat thing because our county that we live in doesn't have a lot of shorebird habitat usually either. And then lo and behold, one of the marshes had great shorebird habitat, and then boom, next day closed for hunting. No one can access.
It's just too powerful.
That's exactly what it is. Nobody
Hmm.
was able to contain it, and so they just said it's off limits to all.
Yeah. Yeah, but you had red knot there. Did you guys get to see that?
We did not
No,
see the red knot. We
there was
saw
a
some
Oh,
bared
dang.
sandpipers.
That's a good one. That's always a
redneck
good one.
phalarope was there too, but we
That's a
also
good
did
one.
not see it.
We did not see that one though.
Dang.
We actually
Yeah,
really struck out bad.
that's
But I found
I
either a
feel for
red
you.
spotted purple caterpillar or a viceroy caterpillar.
That's cool. I think those are no touchies, aren't they?
No, you can touch them.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I last summer I actually got grazed with the back of my leg by a no touchy.
Oh, really? What
Yeah,
kind?
I have no idea, but all I know is it hurt, and
Are
Oh,
you sure it
really?
was a caterpillar?
it was definitely a caterpillar because I saw it fall.
Oh, okay.
Um, and I had blisters for about 4 days.
I
Dang.
wonder because
It
I
was the
know of a
worst thing
couple of
I've
them.
ever. Yeah,
There's that one
yeah.
that looks like a slug, like a hairy slug,
I
and
think
then
it
there's that
was
one
one of
that's
the slugs.
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
but
I
I
think
couldn't
we
tell you the
found one of those
species.
once too, and I wanted to pet
Mm-hmm.
it so bad.
Mm-mm. No, it's a bad time. It's
I've heard that there's caterpillars in the rainforest in South America where if you touch them, you're going to be out of commission for days, if not a
I
week.
believe it. I feel like anything in the rainforest is just out to get you.
You
Like
just don't
there's
want
the
to touch
That's
anything.
poison dart frogs. Yeah, yeah. It's no
hornet's
scratch and sniff.
nests,
Yep. Bullet
scratch
ants.
and sniff.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
for sure.
Yeah, I
Um,
definitely feel you on the birding being seasonal though, because this is kind of a slump time where it's like
yeah.
fall's starting to pick up. But I feel like we kind of get in this habit of doing other things this time of the year. Like we've been doing more fishing, we've been like looking for caterpillars and stuff.
Oh yeah,
And then
butterflies and stuff.
yeah, and once the good fall migrants kind of pick up, then it's like you get back into it, but it definitely
Mm,
ebbs and flows.
Sometimes you
yeah.
kind of miss them though because you get so wrapped up in not birding anymore because it's still the summertime and it's still hot out and there's still bugs.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden you start thinking about it and you wonder where the buff-breasted sandpipers are. And then you realize that they already came through and you're late because you were too busy in hibernation. So you
You
have
can
to make
get.
sure you, yeah. Oh, I know they're still coming through. I was just
Yeah.
using that as an example. I
Yeah.
think
No,
the
I
next
I
weeks
totally
they're
get
going to
it.
be good for them actually.
Yeah. Yeah. We just had one here at the sod farm. Yeah, I think you can get them. I've had them at Jagerfest before.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
think
like
one was
third
on the
week of
beach, I think,
September.
wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it was funny because like I remember it was actually the last time I went to Jagerfest, and I'm like, there's a Buffy right there, and like there was a bunch of people looking at my stuff. I was like, where is it? They couldn't see it because it blended in too well.
Oh,
Because they're
nice.
like the same color as the sand there.
Buff colored.
Yeah, yeah, it was funny, but it was there. I think I got photos of it. Maybe I didn't. I don't know.
I
Um,
think they're one of my favorite shorebirds because of the
mhm.
specificity of habitat. They really
Yeah,
love the sod farms, and there's no other good reason to go to a sod farm ever other than if you're returfing your yard or if you're birding. So
right.
if you're not doing either of those things, you'll never have the sod farm experience.
Definitely. And sometimes ours floods and we have shorebird habitat for a couple of days, so we get other shorebirds. But yeah, it's always good for buffies, beards, um,
Golden plover.
golden plover, black-bellied plover, larks. Yeah,
We apparently have European goldfinches at the one down here.
nice. I still need that for a lifer.
Oh, well, you're
Lifer.
gonna have to come
Really?
down.
Yeah. Be about my easiest lifer for Wisconsin to get. I also need a kittiwake for the state.
That's
Just
kind of
never,
surprising because
never
we've had a
chased
lot
one.
of them.
Yeah. Yep. Just I've never had any luck.
What's your Wisconsin life list at these days?
I think 362.
Okay, that's pretty solid.
I think three minus Ori Red Bull. Rest in peace.
That's a
Yeah.
bummer. I
Yeah,
was hoping it
somewhere
wasn't
up
gonna
there.
get lumped.
Yeah, yeah. I could probably be like 370, 380 if I wanted to be, but I don't chase like I used to.
The
I
four
get
hundred club is kind of exclusive. Be kind of a big
yeah.
deal to reach it, Rob.
Eh,
You're right there.
that's also burning a lot of gas where I'm like, I could, buy a new guitar amp with that, or, you know, buy a new camera, or,
Get a dozen Red Panda shirts.
exactly. I know where my priorities lie. And like most of those birds I've seen elsewhere, like Western kingbird I got for the state last year. And that was just because we chased the ancient murrelet that we missed in Ashland. And otherwise, I probably still would need Western kingbird because I'm not going to chase that because they're everywhere out west.
Yeah, that does kind of ruin your drive to get anything for your state lists. So I know I still need little blue heron. And every
Hmm.
time one of those shows up, I just don't feel like going after it because I've seen so many of them in the
Hmm.
south.
I
So
remember
I,
we missed the same little blue heron at Lake Maria that one year.
where somebody that shall remain nameless probably scared it away because their photo
Yeah.
set was far away, closer, 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 right on it,
Hmm.
flight shots.
Yep. I
Yep.
think I actually met you that day or the next day after.
So I actually think that I maybe remember the first time that I met you, and I think that it was
Was it?
at the band-tailed pigeon.
It was either that or the Chuck Will's widow, wasn't it? Or it depends on
Uh,
which one was first. Because I was just thinking about that
yes, I
earlier.
think it was the same. It was definitely the
Yeah.
same weekend or something, or maybe same month. And then you just popped up everywhere because then you were at the White Wing turn too.
Yeah. Yeah. I was with Trey that weekend.
Yeah, I was gonna say you were with one of our former podcast guests, Trey
Yeah.
McEwen,
Formerly
who
Southeast, now Southwest.
I do have to say, out of everybody, he's told the best creepy story or cryptid story out of anybody on the podcast so far.
Yeah, I believe it.
You were
I was
involved in it.
I was there.
So we're gonna eventually today have to hear your side before we hang it up. But before we do that,
Okay.
I want to talk about your county because you're the guy pretty much in the county who's reporting everything most of the time, which is
Most of
Portage,
the
which
time,
is
I guess.
Stevens Point. There's some other
Hmm.
good birders up there too, but you're kind
Yeah,
of the overseer of the county,
You're
and
the
you
eBird
say
especially
that, I
reviewer.
guess. Yeah, one of them. There's
and
two of us now.
oh, are
Who's the
there?
other one?
Katie Kozak.
Oh,
Hmm.
You finally
She's
have some
another.
you're
help.
multiplying.
Yeah. Well, she's a long time birder, very good birder, and yeah, I could use the relief sometimes, especially in migration.
Yeah, but we should talk about the big draw in Portage County, which is Buena
The
Vista
greater,
Grasslands.
yep, greater prairie chickens, short-eared owls, upland sandpipers, henslow sparrows, all that good stuff.
Yeah, can you give us a little overview of what makes that place so good and some of the, specifics of the interesting species there? Because there's been some drama lately with the chickens, which we'll delve into in a
Right.
little bit.
So I think what makes it good is just the size and like the amount of conservation work that actually goes into it. Because there's a couple different organizations that own property and work down there, um, but it's a little over 11,000 acres. It's allegedly one of the largest grasslands east of the Mississippi. When you're talking about plant diversity, it's actually a lot of like invasive bromes, big blue stem. You got knapweed, lots of knapweed out there, which is weird, but birds are still there. Lots of goldenrods. There's a wide variety of native plants too. Um, I'm not an expert in grass, but that's the gist of what I know. But yeah, and the other component is some of the topsoil is if starting from east, you have more sandy, kind of drier upland areas, and then you go west and you get more. It kind of transitions more into like clay soil, so you have some wetter areas, which is what Henslow sparrows like. Let's see, where was I going with after this? Yeah, the conservation DNR does a lot of stuff down there, and then there's the Dane County Conservation League. I know WSO has a property down there as well. So, you have several organizations that kind of are working together to do habitat management for specifically greater prairie chickens, but also, your Henslow sparrows, your upland sandpipers, all these other grassland species that have seen a decline of, what was it? I think that they've declined. Can't remember the specific number. I think it was like 77% over the last since 1970. Maybe that's high.
Haven't they been
It,
hit extremely hard, the grassland species especially?
it's one of the top three most significant decreases, or one of the top three biomes that has seen the biggest decline over the last 60 years or so.
You may not
So,
know for sure, but is it because it's the kind of habitat that gets developed the most? Because, you know, if
mhm,
it's a grassland, it's usually relatively flat. It's not
yep,
going to be swampy. So people just see it and they think, okay, that's a good place to
hmm
build.
yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. And it was kind of one of those things that I think also kind of got overgrown in some areas too. Like, because historically, I'm not sure where I'm going with this. um, I do think it's mostly because it's easy to develop and or easy to buy up and turn into agriculture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Grassland species, it says total populations have declined more than 40% since 1966 from Audubon.
In Wisconsin or
I think that's
nationally?
just overall.
Okay. Yeah, the number I was thinking of was in Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
I could definitely buy that because I
Yeah,
do feel like we're losing more and more of
it's a
it.
lot. When I went to Crex in July, I had three bobolinks. One was in Clark County, the other two were at Crex.
And I've never even been to Crex, but I imagine it usually is a pretty great stronghold for grassland species.
It could have just been because I was there late. Um, it was like towards the tail end of July and stuff's more rearing young and quiet kind of post breeding dispersal era. But yeah, it was weird because I kind of like I came home and saw plenty of bobolinks in Buena Vista.
Hmm,
It was weird. Yeah, and
that's interesting.
Crex is 30,000 acres, and a good portion of that is brush prairie, which not really classic bobolink habitat, but there's open prairie there a significant amount. So I was a little concerned by that.
I remember seeing a map for bobolink specifically. It was kind of a projection map, and it
Hmm,
showed that they were predicted to severely recede north into Canada over the
interesting.
next years. Yeah, so I don't know if it's just with temperature changes or if it's
Yeah.
habitat changes, but it seems like more stuff from the south is coming north and more stuff from the central part of the country is going back north. So at some point,
Hmm.
we may not even see some of those winter species like the evening grosbeaks and things like that.
I mean,
Hopefully,
that's
that
already
won't be the
kind of
case in
true.
our lifetime. Yeah, I was thinking about the boreal
Yeah.
forest today because back when I started birding, people used to say in our state you could get blackback woodpecker, you could
Hmm.
get boreal chickadee, and I
Yep.
think that that is some of the stuff that no one even really goes and looks very much for anymore, which may be indicative of the fact that they're there, no one's looking, or that they're not there, and
I
people are looking and
remember
not finding them.
I remember in like 2011, 2012, boreal chickadee was actually kind of easy to get in Forest
That's
County.
crazy to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
that's wild.
I would get it like every other trek up there, and I don't even remember the last time one's been reported. So it's been pretty scary times for all of our
Yeah,
boreal stuff, and that's a lot of to do with the habitat fragmentation and the warming of the climate. Because I know Canada jay in particular is one that is particularly susceptible to warm winters because they rely on the cold to keep their caches from rotting.
that
So
makes
if you
sense.
have a warm winter with above freezing temperatures, well, they're gonna starve or have to move.
Yeah,
I
and
I think it'd be kind of fun to take a truck up there in the winter and just see how you could do on boreal birds. You know, like
Yeah,
spend a week up there. It just can be such a grind because there's can be nothing for miles until you run into something.
it'd be very quiet.
I'd
I
be
mean
down
that.
to give it a day or two up there this year
Yeah,
in the wintertime. I'd give it a go.
I'm up for it. Yeah, I mean, even back 10, 15 years ago, there were stretches where it was really quiet. Like you could hear the blood pumping in your ears. It was so quiet.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
you get the light snowfall and you just kind of feel it touching the back of your
Yeah,
neck and it's just dead quiet. It's very unique. It's a unique vibe up in the boreal forest
it
of
is.
Wisconsin. It's kind of a different vibe than Sac Zim because at Sac
Hmm.
Zim there's so much stuff going on. There's a lot more
Yeah.
tourism
All right.
up in Wisconsin. It's really just you, maybe some
Hmm.
loggers someplace and
Occasional
just sparse
snowmobiler.
houses. Yeah, very
Yeah.
occasional snowmobiler.
Hmm.
Start to hear
So,
the ravens calling up there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm. My
oh,
favorite.
and then occasional crossbill chatter.
Yeah.
It
Oh
is
yeah.
funny
Very
because
occasional.
it's kind of, if anybody's ever been fishing and you throw out a giant bait, you don't get a lot of bites, but if you do get a bite, it's going to be something really good. That's kind of like
Mhm.
the birding in the boreal forest, is you don't hear one very often, but usually if you do, it's going to be something pretty cool.
Quality over quantity, that's for sure.
Yeah,
It's like
absolutely.
hiking the bogs here. Like, you hike 3 or 4 of them, and maybe you'll get white-winged crossbill. Maybe not.
Yeah. I want to go back to Buena Vista
Yeah.
though, because one of the things that I really like about it is it's good in every season. There's a
Hmm.
lot of habitats where if you're there at some off time of the year, you're not going to get cool stuff. But I found in the winter it's fun to go to because you can get the chickens pretty easily, and then you
Yep.
get snowy owl, short-eared owl, the
Shrike.
road birds like the red poles, and what were you saying, Derek?
Shrike.
Oh yeah, northern
Good
shrike,
strike spot.
rough-legged hawk. So much cool stuff there. And then if you go in the spring, you can get the chickens when they're on their leks. You can get the different sparrow species, the upland sandpipers, the bobolinks, brewer's blackbird. So whenever you go there, it's going to be good.
Hmm. Definitely. Yeah. Winter, it's some years are really good. Some years you can go a long time without seeing birds. Like, it just depends on, like, sometimes if the red poles are here, it's good. Some years are not the greatest for like snow buntings and stuff. So I've seen winters where I've struggled to get more than 10 species down there. But uh, I agree, like the chickens, they're easy to find in the winter, which is always great. And I think my favorite time actually is the summer down there because you're still in the tail end of shore birding, and there's normally a couple of good mud holes down there that you can hit, and the corn isn't super tall, so there's no corn sweat yet per se, as we dealt with last week. There's a spot, like, there's woodlots where you can get orchard orioles. There's one you can get Nashville warbler at. Ruffed grouse, there's a couple spots for that if you know where to go.
That's
But
pretty
yeah,
cool,
I mean,
actually.
yeah, definitely.
You guys
um
still have Western meadowlarks around this time of year?
they're around, but tough.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Hmm. I've seen
So,
a few meadowlarks in the winter here, but they're not annual.
gotcha. This year we did the prairie chicken blind, and
Nice.
that was incredible hearing them,
Hmm.
hearing the booming, because you go out there when it's really dark. Yeah, I'm assuming you've done the blind, Rob.
Yeah, I missed half a day of high school for it.
Yeah, that's
As you
worth it.
should.
Hmm.
Yeah, but you go out when it's dark, you're in this like tiny wooden structure, and then all of a sudden you hear this like a kind of alien sounding noises.
Hmm.
It's called the booming from the prairie chickens, and then you watch them do their displays, and they're just really goofy. They have little like territories that they cover. There was one specific one, a male that was on this
Hill
hill.
guy.
Yeah, we called him Hill Guy because he would come up and
Yes.
he'd be in the best light for media and stuff. But it's just a fascinating thing to do. And then they give you like a sheet to fill out so you can say like how
Hmm.
many were there and what their territories were, so you can help with kind of the research
Yeah.
of it as well. It's a really cool
Population
experience.
population status. I
Yeah.
think it's I think it's like 180 to 180 males, something like that. I read.
The Buena Vista one I know has done far better than the other
Yeah,
kind of
it
little
always
tracks because
has.
it's fragmented quite a bit, I think, still.
Hmm.
But
Definitely.
they had the
It's
proposition of the Vista solar sands.
Yep.
So they wanted
Yeah,
to build
the
a solar farm real close to the prairie chicken
So
area,
this
which
is a big issue in
some
my
were
opinion.
actually
yeah,
overlapping where I've seen prairie chickens, like on top of where they forage in the winter and in the spring. And I've seen them lekking out there too. So yeah.
yeah,
But like,
right. Most people would be like, yeah, like put
mhm.
up a solar plant. That's fine. But that's probably the worst place in the state to do it,
Yeah,
unless it's
yeah.
at like Horicon or something. That's like one of the
Well, they
top
got
five
wind
worst
turbines
places.
there, which aren't the best placement, but you have to, like, I'm a proponent of alternative form of energy, like, but I also am a big fan of prairie chickens. So like we have to find the balance here for what works best for all parties, for sure.
It just seems
Um,
like there has to be a better solution
There's got to be an
than
empty
I from
Target
what
parking lot somewhere that's no
yeah,
longer in use.
parking lot would be a great spot because like not only does that give you your solar energy, but it also gives shade for cars in the summer.
Sure. Yeah.
But like yeah, from what I think it sounded like they were pretty open to altering it. I haven't heard anything from the latest comment period, but we did get 1,600 comments in,
Wow.
most of which were in favor of the prairie chickens. So thank you everyone that made your voice heard. We all really appreciate it, and the chickens really do too. But moving forward, I don't know. I haven't heard anything since then, but it did sound like they were open to like altering their plan, because it was a very generous map that I saw. It was like something like 10,000 acres of solar
Which is
panels.
crazy.
It would be the largest in the state.
And that's
Um,
all essentially over prairie.
uh, Kind of just barren fields. It's
Mhm.
mostly agriculture where they're going to put it. But the chickens do use the northern end of the grassland, which kind of buttresses up against like the south end of Plover, where a lot of that agriculture land is. So, um, yeah, keeping it's not only just the solar panels, it's the construction.
Mhm.
It's good to have buffer zones so they're not getting hit by cars or whatever, or getting tangled in the fences. The Shrikes are really gonna love it, because especially if they have barbed wire going over it.
Might
Um,
bird the solar center for
I
some
mean, I'll,
strike.
I'll still probably check the area out. Not gonna lie.
Well, one thing about it is if they do develop that, even if it's not directly on prairie chicken land,
Yeah.
say like the DNR wanted to make more prairie chicken
Hmm.
land, they're not going to take down the solar farm to then put
Right.
more field. Like once you kind of lose that, it feels lost.
A lot of like under the solar panels, I think they're gonna do some restored prairie with like native plants and stuff, which is really cool, to be honest.
How
Yeah,
would
we
that
Um,
need to see
work?
them work together on something that's beneficial to both.
yeah. I think that is like a thing that they do with solar farms is they'll plant like native uh plants that help with like, so like the soil doesn't erode or whatever. It helps with the erosion control and runoff, but it also benefits like some of the local pollinators as well. Um, but yeah, I from the kind of circling back to the prairie chickens, I think it was like only maybe 7 to 10 parcels that were kind of in conflicting areas. So I mean, it really wouldn't be that hard for them to say, "Hey, we just won't build here."
Yeah,
That's all we're
that seems
asking.
like it'd be a good solution
It's
for
it's
everybody.
it's it's pretty reasonable. Like, hey, this is where prairie chickens hang out. Like, could you not?
Do you get a vibe that that is going to come to a positive solution instead of
I hope
some sort
so.
of environmental fight, essentially?
I mean, we're my friend Bill. He started the Prairie Chicken Project, which is like a supplemental fund for prairie chicken conservation efforts. Um, I know he's prepared to, you know, get
Throw down.
yeah, yell, start uh, thinking of a plan to try and convince them otherwise, like in case they do go forward with it. And I'm kind of in that boat too. Like I'm just ready to fight for the chickens.
It seems like it's a
I
no-brainer
just
to
hope I
not
don't have to,
put
you
it in
know?
that
Hmm.
position. It
I
seems
mean,
like you could find a better spot.
yeah. Or just, yeah, I mean, it's already huge. It's still going to be the biggest solar farm in the state. Like, a little compromise isn't a little compromise actually would be good publicity.
Hmm. Yeah,
Because
that's true.
yeah, not only are you doing clean energy, but you're also keeping conservation in mind as well.
Be
I
great
think
if they
that
were
if
like, we're not going to develop this and we're going to buy this for prairie chicken restoration, and they made
That
that
would
oh,
be
that would
bigger
be
cool.
such a
elsewhere, and then
win.
that'd be pretty
Yeah.
cool.
That would be a massive win. I think that it's that classic story of people trying to do something that seems positive, the clean energy. Hey, we're going to make more clean energy. That's cool, help the environment. And then, of course, it happens to just interfere with one of the endangered species in the state. It's just one of those classic facepalm moments
Well, I mean,
where,
when profits are, you know, number one priority, these kinds of things happen.
Yeah, it's just
They also wanted to put wind turbines in the Gulf of Mexico, right where the birds migrate through, and I'm like, that is literally the worst place that you could do
Exactly.
that.
That would be
Yeah.
terrible. Oh
it's
man.
why does it keep happening though? How is nobody speaking up early when these ideas get brainstormed and saying, "Hey, it seems like it would be great to put that there, but
Well,
there's
Well,
an
gotta
I
be.
issue."
think they are to some degree. Like this wasn't confirmed, right? They were like,
Yeah.
we're proposing this. So I think this is still fairly early
Yeah,
in the
no,
stages.
it is. We've had two comment periods, and I think the next thing that happens isn't until January. So it's a pretty slow moving process.
What
So
is the next thing? Is it more
I'm not
comments? Is
sure.
it...
I
Oh,
think
okay.
it's develop or like planning, something with planning. I've been too busy to stay on top of it lately. But I know it isn't until January. But if anything develops in the meantime, I know I'll hear about it because I'm pretty tapped into the network and the all the Leopold Audubon Society. There are year is starting up here soon, so I'm sure that'll be on the discussion table at our next meeting.
Is there
And
anything that anybody can do listening who wants either more info on it or wants to help in some way?
just stay tuned, and we need to get our voices heard. Uh, you know, be ready to, and just and this sounds like a call to arms or whatever, but like at the end of the day, like we shouldn't be at odds with this kind of project. Like we just want them to do it in an ethical way that doesn't put our prairie chickens at risk.
Hmm.
You
And
know,
what
so
is the importance of the prairie chickens too? Because they're a species that's kind of smattered throughout the United
yeah,
States, but this is one of the most, I think, far east populations that exists in the country, isn't it?
they're in Illinois, and I think there's a few in Indiana. But as far as I know, Buena Vista is the biggest population east of the Mississippi River.
Hmm.
And I know a lot of people do come here to see them specifically, so it does help our local economy. Um, and it just brings joy to people's hearts to see them. Like if you've ever seen the prairie chickens dance, it's goofy. It reminds me of myself, really. You know?
Yeah, but that's with them.
You're
Yeah,
getting super
absolutely.
Lorax vibes, Rob. You're like, I speak for the
That's it.
chickens.
I do. I'm the chicken man.
I think that is
Mhm.
exactly as it should be.
Exactly. Like I felt have a long history with these birds, and they mean a lot to me. So, um, yeah, I'm gonna yell at people if I have to.
It is funny because every time I go up there, my first question, usually if it's in the winter, is where the chickens been? And you always go, yeah, they've been on this road. I just
Yep.
saw them the other day. You want to go see them? And then sure enough, there they are.
Yeah, they're pretty easy to figure out when you've been here for 20 years or
When you get
whatever.
inside their mind like you have,
Yeah, you just got to think like a chicken. Like, where's the corn at? Where's that corn stubble?
perfect.
Yeah, for sure. But like, I think also like, they're just there's such a long history of them here. Like, it all started with Fran Hammerstrom, and that's like when Buena Vista started. She was a real trailblazer for the chickens and also women in conservation. It's a pretty cool thing. She was, I think, the second woman in Wisconsin's history to work with wildlife in a professional capacity. So, like, there's also that history too. And I think, keeping the chickens alive also keeps that kind of sentiment at the forefront as well.
The
Like,
chickens used to be far more widespread in the state
yeah,
historically as well. So they used
historically,
to be very
mhm,
far south in the state compared to where they are now, just relegated to that small area. And I think
yeah.
one or is it two counties or is it just the one county? I
They're
think they might be in two.
Adams, Wood, and Portage, so three.
Oh, so three. Okay.
Yeah. Um, historically, I think they occurred in all 72, though.
Well,
hmm And historically, Buena Vista wasn't actually a grassland. It was a black spruce and tamarack swamp surrounded by cattails.
so that's changed.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was drained for agriculture purposes. And
That's
then
actually really incredible
mhm.
that what started as a bog now is one
Yeah,
of the greatest grasslands in the state.
you would have probably been able to find like all the boreal stuff down here
Yeah.
That's
back
just
in the
wild
day.
to think about how it used to be. And maybe 20 years from now, people
hmm
are like, man, back
I
in
think about that stuff all the time.
2024, you could find this species in the state.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah,
that massive solar area that we always bird
Yeah.
at? Used to be a grassland. And before
it
that,
used
used to be a bog.
yeah, it used to be Kirtland's warblers over to the west, out in the pine and oak barrens, along with passenger pigeons, like
And
all that
Carolina
weird
parakeet
stuff.
might have been involved too.
Yeah, who
Well, I
knows?
don't know about that one.
We know who does know. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Great
let's
auks
not
flying
let that
overhead.
happen.
Yep,
Let's try to keep what we got going on now.
Were great auks flightless or could they fly?
I think they were flightless.
I think they were flightless too.
Then they
That's why
probably
they were.
were flying over, but
That's why they were so easy to bludgeon for the early settlers.
hmm.
Unfortunately.
And on that dark note,
Yep.
So, Rob, we heard Trey's Sasquatch story.
Mm-hmm.
We got to hear your side of it.
Well,
Take me to
and
Utah.
and is that the best encounter with something creepy in the woods you've had?
not for me. Honestly, I really didn't see anything that night. I was just, you know, whatever he saw. Like I heard something walking to the right of us because we had the window down and we were listening for owls or whatever. And he's like, he described what he saw, and I'm like, I just started the car and we got out of there.
Did
Was
he
it
seem
because
really
he was
freaked
freaked out?
I was freaked out too. You don't know who it is or what it is. Either way, it's creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether
Have
it
you
be a
had other
squatch
creepier
or
encounters, or was that
oh
the
yeah, big
creepy?
time.
Oh, well, let's hear them.
My first one was in high school or just after high school.
High school gym class.
Yeah, kind of.
Mr.
Uh,
Squatch was our bio teacher.
Something about him always seemed a little weird.
right.
Or a size 18.
Sounds about right. So there's this place called the Dunes, just east of town. And we had just been watching Finding Bigfoot, and I was a skeptic at the time, actually. Still kind of am sometimes. Um, but yeah, we did the whole. Two of them went down the trail, and I stayed back with another buddy of mine.
Were you guys looking for Sasquatches?
Like more messing around, emulating what they were doing on Finding Bigfoot.
Okay.
Not expecting, but like,
Messing around like they were on Finding Bigfoot.
yeah, we were messing with Sasquatch.
Jack Links, baby.
So we called him on the cell phone. I think it was a flip phone at the time. That's how long ago that was. And they're like, okay, we're gonna do a call. And so this area is like it's in the woods, pretty good sized woods. It's on the Plover River. It's at the end of a cul-de-sac, and this trail goes down to the Plover River, and there's like a big hill, sandy thing at the end of it. Why it's called the Dunes. But they did the call, and after that, I see these two red pines shaking. I'm like, what's going on? And then we just hear this, like, it sounded like a cow. Like, you've heard that recording I've sent you, right?
Yeah.
It
Yep.
sounded like that, but louder.
It sounded like, because obviously no one listening has heard it, it sounded like something kind of roaring. Very
Yeah.
similar to what you hear in those Sasquatch recordings that they
Mhm.
play back to try to elicit a response.
Yeah, it was very Jurassic Park-esque.
Was that
So
recording you sent us, was that from that encounter? Or
no,
was that was something
no,
else?
that was at Brule River Campground up in Forest County, right on the UP border.
Gotcha.
That was a weird sighting, or it wasn't a sighting. It was a bunch of weird noises I heard
It
in the
was
middle of the
definitely a weird
sticks.
noise.
Yeah, I was scared. Can't tell you what it was, but not something I was gonna hang around to find out. But yeah, it was the same deal, and they eventually came back and said they had seen it kind of just sitting staring at them from the tree line, and sitting it was like 4 or 5 feet tall. Yeah, pretty sketchy.
So did you see anything?
I've yet to see anything. I've just heard a lot of things that I
That's
can
what it
tell you.
always seems like. It seems like
Yeah.
it's like this phantom thing. What do you think about it? What do you think about the phenomenon? You're a guy that spends a lot of time in the woods.
I honestly wish they could give me some advice at avoiding people. Honestly, but
Greatest hide and seek player ever.
you know it. Yeah, I mean, like if there's any megafauna that's still out there that's undiscovered, it's going to be a great ape, something that's super intelligent, and doesn't want to get found, like Masters of Evasion. I'm open to it.
Well, people have now jumped on the bandwagon that it's even more strange than just an undiscovered hominid. They say that it's interdimensional, travels through
Yeah,
portals,
that's where you lose.
spiritual.
That's where you lose me.
We ran into somebody who we just ran into him, by happenstance when we were looking at the Northern Lights, and
Okay.
they were saying that they have a Sasquatch that lives on their property, but you can never actually see it. You just see it out of the corner of your eye and your peripherals because it portals in and portals
Things
out.
went out of left field real quickly. It just went, it was like
It was kind of like,
cascading.
you guys seen the
Yeah.
Northern Lights here? And they said, we got Sasquatch on our property.
Oh, that's hey. People get spiritual in different ways. I tell you that much.
No, it was like, yeah, we see him on our property sometimes. People come out to see him, but they can never actually see him because it's out of their corner of their eye and the portals, and it just like really like went
Yeah.
off, you know.
And then there's this thing called mind speak where they think they have like telepathy, and I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think that's a thing.
The Sasquatch
Have
told me
you
it
What
have
would a
you
never
said
appeared.
that
Sasquatch say to you?
get out
I
of
can't.
here?
It would. Yeah, it would be that, but an expletive. A couple
Haven't
of them
you said
probably.
that you've had things thrown at you? Has that happened?
I don't necessarily think thrown at me, but I've heard like stuff break, like
Mhm.
trees with no wind, which has been weird. Actually, the most recent one, I think it was 2 years ago. I heard the roars again, so I ran, obviously. Um, and I mean, I was just in this fishery area, just in the middle of nowhere. No one was around. I was the only car in the parking lot, and yeah, I'm just like, I'm not hanging around to find out what this is.
Yeah, like you said earlier, either way, if it's a human or it's not a human, it's
Hmm.
not good news.
Right.
It's not going to be a positive interaction more than likely.
Yeah, and say what you want about the mind speak with the roars, like I know what that means. So like, I'm getting out of there. I ate it on the way out too, like hard.
You just hear Sasquatch like laughing and pointing.
Probably. I
So
went
you're
right
if
into it.
right now if someone was like, you think Sasquatches are real? Are you yes or no?
I would say yes.
Okay.
I
I
just
feel
want to
like
see
you've been
one.
more firm in the past. I feel like
Well,
you're getting a
yeah,
little more skeptical these days.
I just haven't seen one. I've heard a bunch of weird stuff, but you figure I've spent enough time in the woods around here, one would present itself to me by now.
Yeah. So we'll move off the Sasquatch topic, but are you going to go birding anytime soon? You got any birding trips planned?
Jagerfest, and next week I'm going to lead a couple of like bird walks, intro to birding things up at Tree Haven for UWSP. That would be pretty cool.
I also saw you're gonna be one of the speakers at the WSO get together
Yeah,
as well, which is
I
cool.
still have to start working on that, but this is good practice. It'll be some of the Portage County stuff, more formal, I guess, as formal as I can get. Something I'm still practicing at. But yeah, I think I'm still kind of ruminating on the specifics on what I want to talk about because there's just so much. Like I could go down a big rabbit hole when it comes to Portage County because there's just I don't know. I love it here.
What's like the most sought after thing for you in the county? Like what's the species you're like, I should have got this, but it hasn't shown up yet?
Well, there's been 3 chats that have shown up in my birding tenure, and I haven't seen one yet. I've never really chased any of those 3. Probably should have, but that's one I could still get. That's probably my most realistic county bird, if I'm being honest. What else? Pacific loon. That would be one that would be new for me. Got to show up in Dubay eventually, or the river fluage. What else? Some rare shorebird. Maybe lesser blackback gull would be a good one. I don't have that yet.
I do recall
Yeah,
one of your big finds was finding a long-billed curlew in the state. Was that in
that
Portage County?
that wasn't Portage County.
Yeah,
That's
that was a
honestly,
big
Didn't
find.
wonder.
it's actually like 5, but yeah, close.
There were 5 of them, or they stayed for
No,
5?
No,
it
it
was
was
5
5
minutes.
minutes. Yeah, yeah. I was literally, I saw it, or no, what happened was I was trying to. There was a Hudsonian godwit there, which is another really good county bird here. So I was trying to get a photo of it. Naturally, I focused on the tallest shorebird present, and it had its head facing away from me. So I'm like, all right. As soon as it turned its bill, I had a heart attack because I saw it was long and decurved. I'm like, oh, it's a Wimbro.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a couple photos of it and a little bit of video, and then I got the binoculars, and then I saw it didn't have crown stripes. So I'm like, oh, oh. So yeah, I was. I think that was the second record in the last 50 years at the time. There was one up in Bayfield a couple years ago that hung around for people, which is nice, but it's also super far, kind of inconvenient. But yeah,
Kind of
that was
hate that when something shows up super
yeah.
far away and then decides to stay. I'm like,
But
you should
yeah,
have just left 5 minutes when you got here, so I
right.
didn't have to think about you.
Those are always the best. I always breathe a sigh of relief when I don't have to chase something, but then I just don't chase anything. So I don't know why I get all bent out of shape about it. But yeah, the curlew is probably the rarest bird I found here. Yeah, other than that, it's pretty standard rarities. I think black vulture is another good one I've had here. I've had parasitic Jaeger, Dubay. That's a good one inland. Swainson's hawk. That was a good one. I've been kind of bad at finding rarities recently.
I will say, earlier this year, we had a good group go up and get the field fair.
That was fun.
That was a pretty cool bird.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, and Bill spotted it. It's like, there it is. He got all excited. And it was a good time.
Bill is probably one of the most determined birders I've ever met.
He
I've been
still
with him
is.
so many times when we probably shouldn't have found it because the bird wasn't in the normal spot, and he'll just go where no one's looking and find it.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you got to do that.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good life lesson.
For sure. My problem is I always look in the wrong spot.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
You got to start looking in the right spot.
I know. I'm really bad at it. Yeah,
Not in Portage.
I just need to learn how to chase birds again.
I think somebody needs to wake you up out of your slumber, reignite the spark for chasing.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been doing it more the last year.
Got to do some mega chases. Got to get you going across the country.
I'm down.
The gray gull.
Yeah, I keep telling Trey he needs to go for it.
He hasn't gone it yet?
No, he probably won't now because he lives in Arizona.
Yeah, he's farther away than ever.
You'll have so much cool stuff to go find out there, though.
That is true. Yeah.
Do you think Arizona is a better birding location or South Texas?
Depends on the year. Really does.
Average year.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I have spent more time in Arizona, so I'll probably be a little biased. But I personally, I would prefer Arizona just because I like it there better. It's less humid. And I like the mountains there. I do like the Rio Grande a lot. I need to go back there at some point, get some lifers.
What are you
But
still missing?
tropical parula, green parakeet, apple meadow falcon, marlet seed eater.
You do need to go back to the valley.
Immediately.
Right? I definitely do. Could afford it this winter, probably.
Jackpot.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a couple other things I still need down there too. I don't know. I haven't really looked in a while, kept track of things.
Well, cool. Anything else you want to mention before we wrap up?
Oh, Wisconsin birders, juncos are coming. If you have a subspecies that is not slate colored, you need photos.
Are you talking about Oregon or Cassia or any?
Anything. That is eBird protocol.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And it's always important to get that reminder out to folks so that you're not mad at me for enforcing our policy. I don't make the rules. Maybe it'll change at some point, but we need those photos.
I got one more thing. As a reviewer, what's some of the most ridiculous things you've seen come through the queue?
Probably heathhen, which is a subspecies of extinct prairie chicken found primarily on the East Coast. I think it was honestly a typo. But the location it came from also doesn't have prairie chickens, so
Wonder what they were trying to say.
probably rough grouse. That would be my guess.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Maybe they're using a really, really, really old field guide.
must have been either that or the search function. They clicked it too fast when it popped up or something.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
It does make me wonder because your story about how you got started with the field guide, like other people have said that too. They're like, oh, I picked up a book about birds. With kind of the shift to online stuff, you know, I feel like the likelihood of that happening is going to be less of kids just picking up a bird book. And also, when you came up to your dad, like, I want all these books, like, I feel like any parent today would be ecstatic their kid wants to read that many books. Such
Yeah,
a
that's
different
true.
time now.
Oh, the times have changed. Wow. Yeah.
They'd be like, you want to read a book? Yeah. Like,
No, I want to be on
50 more
TikTok.
books.
Yeah, I don't have a TikTok. I try to.
That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Probably
try
for the
to.
best.
I just have the my face or whatever it's called.
That could be literally any number of different social medias, and I don't know which one you're referring to anymore.
Facebook.
Oh, okay.
Facebook's
Yeah.
really deteriorated into all, like, they've all deteriorated
It's-
into all ads and
Yeah.
sponsored posts. It's
And
ridiculous.
if it wasn't for the birding community being on there, I would have been off it a long time ago, to be honest. YouTube, Pokemon Go, iNaturalist, eBird, those are my favorite social medias.
Those are my social medias.
Heck yeah.
eBird.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
It's only going to be a matter of time before eBird has a shorts feature where you can upload short
Oh,
videos
gosh.
of dance trends.
Mm-hmm. So you probably, yeah, it's prairie chicken booming.
Yeah,
That
best prairie chicken impersonation gets your report verified.
gets a free guided trip to Buena Vista by yours truly.
Well, that's
Could
pretty
be, you
useful.
never know.
That's how I get all my Buena Vista birds.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love the grassland. I haven't been down there in a while. I should go again. Actually, no, I was there 2 days ago. I did a cursory drive through for shorebird habitat, and I didn't find any. I did have a red-headed woodpecker though. That was cool.
That's a good one. I love the 180. I haven't been down there. Wait, no, 2 days ago.
Everything
To you,
right.
that's a while.
Everything runs together. Like it's just so hard to keep track. And I need to go birding more for sure.
You do. Well, thanks so
we
much for
need-
joining us, Rob.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I was about to say we need to go birding together again soon.
Definitely.
Yes, we do.
Write them down. We need a
It was a smashing
European
success.
Yeah.
We need to have a day of European birds
Yeah.
in the States.
Right on. I'm so game for that. Probably soon. Next month or two.
Sure.
Keep me in the loop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for joining us, Rob, and thanks to everyone for watching
Thanks
this
for
episode.
having me.
Yeah. And thanks everyone for watching and listening to this episode of the Badgerland Birding Podcast.